Howdy, everybody. You might recognize me from another video series that I do called The Breakdown, but but if not, then here's my intro. My name is Spencer. This is a video that's going to be different than my usual videos. I'm a sports commentator, breakdown guy, as evident by my other video series title, but this one is about Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I wanted to do entertainment stuff as well, so I picked the franchise that I know the most about. At least I think I know the most about, and that's Star Wars. I mean, I've been a fan of Star Wars for most of my entire life. I mean, I've got multiple Lego sets of Star Wars, devoured the books, the EU when it was still considered canon, and even since then. I remember going to see Revenge of the Sith with my dad and my brother in theaters, and it was awesome and stuff. And just yeah, I mean, it was such a huge thing of mine growing up. When I saw that Disney bought Star Wars, I was really excited because I knew that they were going to get more Star Wars content. Even when they dismissed the EU and made it Legends, I was annoyed because I'd grown up with those stories and I loved them, but I could understand because they wanted to make their own content, and I could get behind that. And I'm sure people are going to be seeing this. Oh, here comes another Star Wars video and all that, and this will be about the Last Jedi, and people will be like, "Oh, you're just ripping on the Last Jedi and all that." It's like, no, I'm not trying to rip on the Last Jedi. I liked it when I saw it in theaters. I saw it multiple times. I thought it was a beautifully shot film. The CGI was really good. There were excellent moments in the movie. But now looking back on it, it's been a little over a year since it came out, and it has its issues. It's and those issues have gotten worse and worse as I've looked back on it more. So instead of this going on a rant about how it was terrible and all that, I'm gonna come up. I've got five ideas that if Ryan Johnson had used to fix instead of his decisions, it could have fixed The Last Jedi and probably made it a pretty good movie. I don't know about great, but at least a much better movie than it turned out to be. So might as well get right down to it. First, the main plot point or main idea is pretty much everybody agrees on this. Get rid of the Kanto Bite plotline. I mean, it does not add really anything to the entire story or plot of The Last Jedi. I mean, it only adds a social commentary about war profiteering, the distribution of wealth, and the wealth gap between the haves and the have-nots. That's it. And it came off as just ham-fisted and just beat you over that. It also adds 20 to 30 minutes of runtime that the film didn't even need. The film was 2.5 hours with that plot line in there. You cut it down to 2 hours, it's a much more streamlined film, and it's probably a little more enjoyable in the sense of it's like the prequels try to talk about the social commentary aspect and try to insert politics into Star Wars. The original trilogy was just good versus evil. It was the Empire versus the Rebellion. There you go. It's like that's all you need to do. Prequels added a little more nuance to it, and they were panned early on. Now, more recently, people have gotten like, oh, the prequels weren't as bad as we all thought. They were actually pretty decent. Now, it could turn out that this down the road does that, but at least with the prequels, they still gave you good versus evil in the sense of the Trade Federation, the corporations, all the banks and stuff versus the Jedi and the Republic. So you had that good versus evil. But in this, it's just beating you over the head with the fact about all this social commentary stuff, and there you go. The second part is Vice Admiral Holdo. Still have her in there. She seems to be an interesting character, at least at the beginning. And obviously, we know there's more from the books that people can read. But I mean, most people who go see a Star Wars movie aren't going to read the books, so you have to introduce a character better than they did in this film. While Vice Admiral Holdo, there's nothing wrong with having another female, whatever. So don't give me that crap about your first 2 points are talking about female characters. Like, no, this is just they're the two worst parts of the film. With Vice Admiral Holdo, instead of her not telling anyone her plan of what to do, how to escape the First Order and all that, telling nobody, because reasons. I mean, there's actually I've seen other videos that have done this sort of thing, and they mentioned that actually, Leia came up with the plan of trying to escape and find another rebel base in which they can send out a signal to their allies in the Outer Rim. And apparently that's the entire plan. So all Holdo had to say is, look, I'm following Leia's plan. And now maybe some people missed that part of it. I certainly did. I couldn't remember it until I saw it on a video and stuff. But that right there is like, okay, she has a plan. She's following Leia's plan. We trust Leia. Okay, fine. Or she could have said, because she came into command right after the First Order destroyed the bridge and was able to track the Resistance through hyperspace, and no one knew how. So all she has to do is, to Poe, is, I don't know how they were able to track us through hyperspace. We could have a traitor on board. Someone could be sending a signal to the First Order, enabling them to track us. So I can't trust anybody, or the people I trust are very tight. And I don't know you. Leia trusted you, but I'm sorry, I have to think of this entire crew. There you go. Now, it might hurt us as a viewer because we trust Poe more than we trust Holdo at this point, because we've seen Poe from The Force Awakens. Leia obviously trusts him because he was the one she sent to go get the final piece of the map to Luke Skywalker. He led the attack and destroyed Starkiller Base, so we know she trusts him, and he's a very trustworthy. He's probably second or third in command after the bridge is destroyed, because he's probably head of the Starfighter Corps that the Resistance has left. So he should know what the plan is. It's just lazy storytelling and lazy writing on the part of Rian Johnson and the writers and producers of the film. Not that the character is bad because she's a woman, it's because she's a poorly written character. If Holdo just says, we could have a traitor on board, that gives us a reason of like, okay, she's not going to tell us anything because she doesn't trust everybody else. And it's like, okay, we might not like it, but it's like, all right, fine. That can also give Poe a chance to explain, okay, Leia trusted me. Let me go see if I can find this traitor or figure out how they are tracking us. That gives him something to do rather than stew over getting bitch slapped by Leia for no reason, because he was right in destroying the Dreadnought. The sacrifice of the Bomber Squadron was tragic, but that Dreadnought was about to destroy the fleet if they don't destroy it first. So he saved everybody in the Resistance fleet with that decision. There you go. He could go off instead of stewing about a possible mutiny and stuff. He could be like, okay, I have a plan. I'm going to try and find this traitor. And he goes to try and find a group to help him. That introduces Finn and Rose. Finn he knows and he trusts because Finn is trying to run away from the First Order, so he's not going to help them find him. And Rose, while she's a brand new character, she's a mechanic. We're introduced as she's a mechanic, so she can help them find out. And also, we find out that Rose's sister was the one who finished the bombing drop that destroyed the Dreadnought and sacrificed her life for it. So she's not going to betray the Resistance that her sister just died for. And also, that gives Poe a chance to directly interact with someone who was directly suffered because of his own decisions and actions. He was the one who called the Bomber Squadron in. He was the one who told them to continue the attack run. Rose lost her sister because of that decision. That right there forces Poe to grow as a character, and it's great. It's easy. It's an easy fix rather than him stew over possible mutiny and all this other stuff. It also allows Rose, as a mechanic, she can try and figure out how they're tracking the Resistance through hyperspace. Maybe there's a signal that the ship is giving off that she can discover, or maybe she finds a tracker like we saw in Attack of the Clones with Obi-Wan, who he tracked Jango Fett to Geonosis. He threw a tracker onto the ship, and that's how he's able to track him. Maybe there's something like that. Even then, that way, even if it's like the signal and stuff, it's like if the ship gives off some sort of signal that when they're about to jump to hyperspace or whatever, it's able to be tracked, Finn could then be like, he overheard Phasma and Hux talking about that they're close to a breakthrough with that type of technology. Because we do get a little bit of a glimpse in Rogue One in which Jyn Erso, when she's looking through all the plans at Scarif, the Citadel Tower or whatever, they bring up hyperspace tracking and stuff like that. It's like, well, okay, so the Empire First Order has been working on it for 30-something years. Well, there you go. You could have said, Finn overhears something while he was with the First Order. It's like, oh, they had a breakthrough in the technology, and that's how they're able to track us. Okay, now we know how they're tracking us. and Rose can help try and maybe come up with a way to confuse that tracking or whatever. There you go. That gives her something to do rather than just be a self-insert social commentary character, and all that. And it gives her a purpose, and it gives her strength. And she's like, I'm doing this because I want to help save what my sister gave her life for. There you go. That fixes probably the two biggest issues of the film right there. The third is you expand on why Luke is a broken man. I mean, Mark Hamill's portrayal of Luke I thought was really good and stuff. I mean, he didn't agree with a lot of it. I think he's kind of backtracked now because he's been told to, but I think his portrayal of Luke was as good as it's going to get with the writing and the character direction that he got. But we don't know why. I mean, this guy goes from offering to sacrifice himself to the Emperor in an attempt to save his father, who's been the worst guy in the entire galaxy for two odd decades, in the hopes that he turns him back to the light side. And he's not willing to give up on him and all. But then he sees something in the future in Ben's head and immediately thinks, I need to kill him. I mean, yes, he regrets it and all that, obviously, but it's like he immediately jumps to, I need to kill my nephew. Like, really? No. Yoda is talking about how the future is always in motion. You can't, just because you see something, sorry about the mic, but just because you see something in a Force vision doesn't mean it's going to come true. I mean, look at all the Force visions and stuff that they've kind of actually done. I mean, because Anakin thought that Padme was going to die, he started the chain of events that led to her dying in childbirth and stuff. So it's like he completely ignored or forgot the lesson from Yoda. It's like, oh, the future is always in motion and such. So it's like, why not expand on that? Maybe instead of him seeing something in Ben and immediately thinking, oh, the best way to deal with this is to kill him, to kill my nephew. There you go. It's like, well, maybe Ben, you give more flashbacks because you can take that time that you took out from the Kanto Bite stuff. You take those flashbacks and make it so you show a little bit more of the training, Ben being trained. And maybe Ben thinking that Luke is holding back on his training. And he's getting angrier and angrier about that. He's like, he doesn't trust me. And he's all that can, maybe you hear Snoke whispering in Ben's ears, like, he doesn't trust you. He's not teaching you all that I can teach you better, and stuff like that. And they're also, and then near the end, Ben confronts Luke about why he never told Ben about his connection to Ben's connection to Vader as his grandson and as Luke's father and stuff. And that's kind of talked in the books, but again, the books, most of the people who are going to see these movies are not going to read the books. They're not. So you've got to tell them that. You've got to be, even if you have to double up on it, fine and stuff. You tell them that afterwards. And you can even the thing is, it's like you can still have it as the same as in the books. It's a flashback, so nobody's really going to care about that. And then when Luke is like, look, I'm sorry, like tries to apologize and stuff and say, hey, I'm sorry, I messed up. And Ben's like, doesn't agree with that. And he goes, he attacks the Jedi Temple, and that's how the temple is destroyed. It's like, there you go. That fixes, and that also can show, it's like, look, that's why Luke is distraught and afraid and broken. He didn't trust himself. He ran off because he messed up. They messed up. He wants to take he thinks that perhaps if the Jedi go away, the Sith will go away, even though that's not really happening, and I don't think it would ever happen. I mean, even Snoke says, as darkness rises, the light will rise to meet it as well. So there you go. I mean, there's always going to be a cyclical thing of this, but at least that gives you a little bit more of an explanation of why Luke exiled himself and vanished. I mean, even then you could just say, okay, he went to the first Jedi Temple, because that's where on Ahch-To, he went to the first Jedi Temple to try and rediscover the teachings of the Jedi, like the original Jedi, how they achieved balance and all that, and he just got stuck there or something like that. It's not great, but there you go. The fourth one is Rey's training. I mean, actually show her training, perhaps. I mean, yeah, we see her swinging the lightsaber near the rock and stuff like that, but that's about it. I'm like, really? She was kind of a Mary Sue in The Force Awakens. You can kind of understand that. Like the fighting against the Junkers and stuff with the staff, you can kind of understand that because she's grown up there. She probably knows how to defend herself. Her mechanical skills, okay, fine, because she's probably fixed and scavenged a whole bunch of stuff. So maybe she's been tinkering and stuff like that. She can fix stuff, fine. Flight, her flying skills, okay. I mean, it's the Force. I mean, we saw with Luke. Yes, he had the skills, but he was better pilot with the Force. I mean, even Anakin needed the Force to be this great pilot. So there's your answer there. But she's able to beat Kylo Ren the first time she picks up a lightsaber. This is a guy who's been trained in the ways of the Force for pretty much his entire life. He's obviously very powerful and very skilled, but she beats him down pretty easily. I mean, yes, he's wounded, so if he had played that up more, like if he's grabbing at his stomach and his chest while fighting her off, okay, you can kind of get that. But then in here, it's like she beats the Praetorian Guard with ease and stuff. She gets a scratch and all that, but Ben is like barely able to win. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, you gotta show her being trained. You can still have her be drawn to the dark side, like in the film was, and that can add to Luke's character and his conflict because he's conflicted on like his confidence. I was like, how can I train this girl when I failed my own nephew? Like, how can I? She has all this power, and like I saw this as he said in the film and in the trailer. It's like I've only seen this amount of raw power once before, and it's like, okay, well he failed that time, so he's afraid he's going to do it again. Like, okay, fine, but this would allow Luke. This would gain Luke's more character. He'd show more character growth, or at least in the film we'd see, okay, this is why he's not training anybody, he's exiled himself, he's afraid. But then you can obviously have Yoda being like, look, failure is the greatest teacher there is. You have that part in there. It's like Obi-Wan and the Jedi Order failed Anakin and it allowed him to become Darth Vader. It's like if they failed changing with the times. That's the main issue with the old Jedi Order. They just stagnated right after the old Sith Wars, like 1,000 years before the events of the prequel trilogies and Battle of Yavin. They pretty much didn't evolve from that point. They stayed stagnant because they were afraid of another schism and falling apart again. It's like, well, if you stagnate, you're going to fail eventually because you're just going to collapse. And that's what they did. They weren't prepared for anything. They weren't prepared for the Clone Wars. They weren't prepared for Sidious and all that because they were just so focused on everybody's got to do this one thing, and once it failed miserably, and that's how the Sith were able to take control of the galaxy. There you go. And I mean, and also you can still have Yoda in there, and it brings it makes Luke feel more complete in the sense of like, okay, I failed. I mean, he failed in Empire Strikes Back. He failed to defeat Vader. Then he failed in facing his own fears and all that. Failed to save Han, and yet he didn't give up and just run off. He kept trying. He kept trying this thing. So there you go. And then the final ones are kind of a two-parter in the sense of it's both final battles. You have, I guess there's the three final battles. Don't have the Holdo maneuver. I'm sorry, please, because that breaks the entire continuity of Star Wars. It's like, why didn't anybody else use this type of idea in the past? If you're able to use a ship obviously you can use a ship as a weapon, ramming them, fine, but going at near light speed and stuff, and then blowing through everything. It's like, okay, why didn't the Rebellion just do that with a single X-wing against the Death Star? Why didn't they do that both times against the Death Star or against Starkiller Base? I mean, we saw in The Force Awakens that you're able to get through a planetary shield if you're going at near light speed or light speed, because you're able to. Apparently they flicker on and off, so you have to if you get the timing right or the signal correct, you can do it. So why couldn't they just do that before? And it's like, it's just a dumb thing. Obviously, if you have them figure out the tracking, that entire thing changes, so we'll just ignore that. But the battle with Snoke, Rey, and Kylo, I didn't mind. I was annoyed that Snoke died so easily and stuff. Like, really, come on, dude. I mean, fine. He's a throwaway character and stuff like that. I suppose it wasn't great, but all right, whatever. I can deal with it. But the battle is like, as I said earlier, Rey gets a single scratch across the arm. That's the only injury she suffers in the entire fight. When Kylo is nearly killed multiple times. These Praetorian Guards are apparently the most skilled warriors, and some of the most skilled warriors in the galaxy. They've got lightsaber resistant armor, lightsaber resistant weapons, so they've been trained to fight Force users. So it shouldn't be that easy. Have her injured, have her need to be saved by Ben, because Ben has been trained his entire life, so he should be the one being able to take these guys on with ease and stuff. So it's like, have him save her, or have Luke show up. Luke in the, instead of on Crate, because maybe the Resistance doesn't go to Crate, or they are able to escape the First Order, like double jump perhaps, instead of just jumping once, jump twice. Get as soon as you get one twice, then jump again. That could have fixed the tracking issue as well. But Luke shows up and confronts both Snoke and Rey, or Snoke and Kylo Ren, as a way, after disabling the tracking, instead of having Finn and Rose sneak aboard, he could be the one who gets aboard, cloak himself, whatever, in the Force, whatnot, or sneak aboard when Rey goes. That way, he's there. He pulls an Obi-Wan from A New Hope. He's the one who disables the tractor beam, allows them to get away. Obviously, they're still tracked to Yavin 4, but still, it's a better send-off than what he got, in my opinion. I mean, he dies because I can understand why he dies, because apparently he was cut off from the Force for 20, 30 years, and then he overexerts himself and it just burns him out. Now, if they had shown him like his entire body like being lit inside with the Force, like they do in the EU when a Jedi achieves oneness with the Force, like their entire body is a luminous being of light. If they had done that and then he fades away, okay. That's a kind of a cool one. That'd be a cool effect. I did like the actual scene where he fades away, seeing the twin suns. I'm like, okay, cool. But have him do it like if he still want to do the Force projection, have him do it when he's confronting Snoke and Kylo, rather than on Salt Hoth, as someone else is on videos have called it. So, I mean, you can at least then have Rey like have the fact like, okay, I mean, I just lost my mentor again. I saw what a true Jedi does and stuff, and I'm injured. I've been beaten. I'm at the bottom, like Luke was at the end of Empire. Luke was at the bottom. He'd just gotten his hand cut off. He'd just been told that his father was the one who cut off his hand, and Obi-Wan lied to him and all. It's like, look, this way, it's similar to Luke's journey, but he gets that. You go from the beginning, and then you're at the bottom of the hill. You've got to work your way back up. It's like Rey's got nothing. She had a scratch. That's it. It's like, like she knows all the Resistance is able to fit on this one ship on the Millennium Falcon. That's it. That's all the Resistance, at least that we know of. It's like it's just on the freighter. Like, that's not a lot of people. A lot of people died and stuff. So she should be sad. She should be distraught. She failed at bringing Ben back to the light. I don't think that was ever going to happen. And stuff like that. So she's failed, but she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, no, that's bad story writing. That's bad character development. She should be beaten down. She should be despondent and stuff. And she's not. She's whatever. So if Luke sacrifices, yeah, he still sacrifices. Maybe he still sacrifices himself, but he kills Snoke, but then he's expended so much energy. Even, to be honest, you could even make it so Luke doesn't die. He defeats Snoke, but he expended so much energy, he's easily captured by Kylo. And Kylo is like, look, I'm capturing you. You're now my prisoner. And that could be part of the movie for the next one. It sets it up. It's a cliffhanger and it sets it up. That's perfect. It's like, so, well, there you go. There's 5 ways that you could have fixed, Rian Johnson could have fixed The Last Jedi and made it into a much better movie. I don't know about great. Again, I don't know about great, but a much better film than what we got, because I mean the last 2 films that Disney has come out with in Star Wars, The Last Jedi and Solo, have gone bad quick and stuff. So episode 9, everything's hinging on that. And I think J.J. Abrams will do a pretty good job, but I mean, he is not getting any breaks considering what Rian Johnson did with this last film of the trilogy. It's like, if Rian Johnson had wanted to subvert our expectations or change everything around, okay, fine. Do that with your own trilogy. Like, your own trilogy is going to be completely separate from the Skywalker saga or the main series that we've seen so far. That's fine. Then you can change shit around. That's okay. Don't do it in the middle, in the second film of a trilogy that is based on, that needs to be completed. Do it in the first or the last one. So, I mean, there you go. I mean, that's the biggest issue. Those are the 5 things that I think if Rian Johnson had done, or whoever was in charge of The Last Jedi had done, it would have been a lot better, more streamlined and better film and all that. I'll probably make a couple other videos either regarding Star Wars or other pop culture stuff. I can't wait to see Avengers Endgame. That looks really good. Captain Marvel looks pretty good. Spider-Man Far From Home. So Marvel, the other Disney property, is doing really, really well. It's like, come on, Disney. Like, can you maybe send some Marvel people over to Star Wars and get them to fix it and stuff? But there you go. We'll see you around this. I've got multiple channels and stuff on YouTube, so these ones will probably be posted on my new entertainment version of my entertainment channel rather than the sports channel I have. But there you go. Let me know in the comments if you've got any other ideas that might have popped in that you might think could have helped with Last Jedi and stuff like that. Really like to hear from you. Just there you go. Till the next video. See you around, and may the Force be with you. It wasn't with Rian Johnson, but may it be with you.